You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello there, Pete. How goes life in lockup? Oh, yeah, I heard about that. They got 52 missing people that they converted into a deck of cards. That was very clever. Yep, and it goes right along with what I've been saying for the longest time. The people who are locked up can be useful. They just need to figure out ways to tap into all that talent and skill and experience. No, no, you're not the exception. I mean, you're just as useful. I mean, did you happen to recognize anybody on one of the cards? Oh, so you know somebody who might know something. Uh, any little bit helps. That's for sure. I know when I was in law enforcement, I couldn't capture the bad guys without the help of the public. That was our biggest source of information and gave us the best chances of success. So it was really nice that the community trusted us enough and cared enough to give us that type of information. And you know, right, right, and so that's the one thing that I'm really concerned about is you guys go into prison and you just waste away. And there's people out there you could talk to or who could talk to you, the questions you could answer that could really make a difference. And we're just ignoring that, and it's downright scary to think that not everybody is taking advantage of these situations. But people in law enforcement, they know. And so I'm glad this person came up with this clever way to try to solve some of these cases. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they can reach out to the community. They were actually talking about expanding it to offer the cards to people in the community. So it would be kind of nice that you sit down for a friendly game of cards, whatever game, and you see people on there that are missing, and they could even do that for like a missing child or something too, and maybe somebody who's just as a visitor comes in and says, I know this person, or I might have some information about this case. And of course, a very good source is the people who have been out on the streets, who live out there, who work out there, who play out there, and they have a better chance of seeing some of these missing people, and especially if they're involved in a crime, because if they happen to walk upon it when they're out there doing their regular stuff on the streets, that could be a huge advantage to us. And that's I definitely see the advantage to that. It helps families to know that law enforcement's doing something, and maybe we can get a little trust. And it would be really nice if one of the people who's locked up, maybe somebody who's not even there yet, runs across a card and helps find somebody who's missing. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I hope we can expand it and help bring some of these people home. Even if we bring one of those 52 home, it was worth it. And I think if we get them into the prisons and maybe, I don't know, get them out on the streets. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely need to start trusting
You have 30 seconds
the
remaining.
officials. And for me, that's really hard to do. It's hard for me to trust anybody in the Department of Corrections. But we also can't say we'll never trust them, and then turn around and say we need to give inmates a second chance. Yeah, it is kind of ironic, but you got to keep an open mind on something like that. Well, good. Yeah. Well, thanks for the call. It was nice hearing from you, and keep me posted on those cards. Let me know if there's any success out
Thank you
there.
for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I want to show the importance of incarcerated people, how they could help us to reduce crime, reduce recidivism, how they could help law enforcement, how they can make our community safer just by showing them how valuable they are. And it's not that difficult to do. Now, in the phone call, I discussed a little project that's going on in Yakima County in the state of Washington, where the people in the jail, they're giving playing cards with pictures and information on people who are involved in open cases, like missing people. And so while the people are sitting in their cell or in the community center or commons area, and they're playing cards, they might just pick up a card and look at it and think, wait, I think I know this person. And then boom, we can get some information going on. Now, when people go into prison, they're no longer a threat to society. They're sitting in there. And they have a lot of information, a lot of skill, but we don't tap into it. Now, let's say, for instance, you won the lottery. And let's say you won $1 million. So you decided you were going to put that $1 million in a lockbox for 5 years. Now, in the meantime, your car breaks down, your home is burglarized, you you have a accident and lose a lot of time from work. Maybe you're involved in a layoff. A lot of things go that you could use the money to help you get through the situation, but it's locked away for 5 years. You can't tap into it. It doesn't gain interest, and it doesn't help pay any of the bills that you're running into. You have to do that on your own. Now picture that. And then after 5 years, you pull it out and it's just $1 million. And maybe in 5 years, $1 million doesn't buy as much as it does now. And that's an idea of what we have with the people that are locked up. Now I'll explain a situation here. There was a young lady. She was sentenced to Washington Correction Center for Women. And in there, when you're in minimum security and then something happens, the procedure is to immediately take the person to maximum. So if she's has to be transported to maximum, they scoop her up, take her over there. It doesn't make sense to delay it. It's like, oh, we'll come back tomorrow, or go in and get your stuff and let's go. They just grab them and go, kind of like when you're arrested. Well, this particular woman, her property wasn't secured. Now, once they take a person away, and I guess this is the same thing out here with law enforcement, because law enforcement's a little better than the DOC officials. With law enforcement, if your car is stolen and then they recover the car, they don't just leave it. They secure it the best they can, lock the doors, move it, whatever, to protect it from being uh, attacked again, let's say. And but in prison, it's different. They don't care. As a matter of fact, some of the guards, they've actually been caught stealing from the inmates. So some guards may take stuff from this woman. But what had happened was the other inmates went in there and just took her stuff, but they took some documents. Now, legal documents are something inmates are allowed to keep. And so her court papers were in there and they were taken, and letters from her grandfather, who has been since been deceased, uh, information about her children, and documents that she couldn't necessarily replace. And there were some documents that dealt with her mental evaluation. Well, the court documents and her mental paperwork, mental evaluation paperwork, were read in the day room to the other inmates. This is devastating to her. Who would like that to happen? Well, the DOC feels like, you messed up. These things happen, blah, blah, blah. I don't accept that. They dropped the ball on this, and this woman suffered. She's going to be getting out of prison one day, and she may move next door to you. What do you think is going through her mind? Now, one thing I emphasize is when people commit crimes, we could look at it and say, how heinous. Why could somebody do something like that? I mean, I remember when I was in law enforcement, there was a woman who took her daughter and put her in the oven, or infant child, and put her in the oven and turned on the oven. Her husband, the dad, was devastated. But we think, how could she do that? But her mental state was gone. In her mind, she was doing the right thing. But to the rest of us, no. And a lot of times when you talk to people who commit crimes like that, they can't really explain it to you. And so these things happen. It's just a fact of life. And it's something we need to uh, deal with. We can't ignore. And as I've asked many incarcerated people, if we were to take away guns, you think this mass shooting would stop? And they all are unanimous. It's like they're reading from a script. Criminals are going to do what they're motivated to do, and nothing's going to stop them. And so, knowing that people are just going to do these things, we have to work within our perimeters. That's what we're locked into doing. Now, with this young lady whose privacy was just destroyed, the DOC needs to be held accountable. They can't hide behind this. And when a person's in prison, the guards are supposed to keep them in line. They're supposed to give them proper guidance, and they're supposed to follow the rules because they are the example. This is not one of those things where do as you're told. This is more or less like, we are showing you that you being in prison is not a good thing, but we want you to learn and get out and be more productive. These people are going into prison with folks that are a lot of times career criminals, and they can teach them crimes. They can teach them how to forge names, or how to steal identities, or they can teach them that once you get out, go talk to this person. You can get into this gang, and you can get into this auto theft ring. And even though we might think, no, that's not what happens, it is. They get out of prison and they go to a life of crime, but they're more experienced now. They're more trained. Crime goes on in the prison. They're still buying and selling drugs. They're still ordering contraband, and they're still bulking the system. And a lot of inmates will just take advantage of some kind-hearted guards. It's just a vicious cycle. And the DOC isn't held to the same rules as like law enforcement or other government agencies. They're allowed to get away with a lot of stuff. And we need to keep tabs of that. The best way to do it is to talk to the people that are in the prison. And when Robert Yates introduced me to Michael Oakes, and he started sharing his stuff, and then I put it on my YouTube channel, He's telling in his words what's going on in his mind and in the prison. He's sharing information that your children could find useful. Those people I interview on Oxyworth, I ask them, what kind of advice would you give to the high school students? And they give this advice. Now, children, a lot of them, when you talk to them, you think they're not listening to you, but they can go off and tell their friends, you know what my parents said? So they may not relay it or act on it immediately, but it bounces around in there. And if you show them a YouTube video, like here's a prisoner talking, tell me what you think of that. Show some interest in these kids. A lot of the people that do these YouTube stuff, they don't want people to end up in prison. And so as a teenager or younger is watching this, it could be more like, I can relate to that. I know when you listen to a Billie Eilish song, a lot of the young folks can relate to her music. And that's why they buy her stuff, and that's why they go to her concerts, because she's singing to them. She's singing about their situation. These YouTube people, they're the same thing. They can connect. We shouldn't villainize social media. We should use it to our advantage. The 52 cards, fantastic way of using the resources we have within prison. The YouTube, social media, a lot of people are broadcasting on podcasts from prison. And if we want to stop crime, we need to talk about this stuff. Sometimes rather than just banning guns, which will never go away, we should just talk and listen and ask questions and become involved. Show these people that are in prison that they're important. A lot of them didn't go to prison because they were in a loving, kind, sweet household, family, neighborhood. They went because they're trying to fix something. It could be an addiction, and they're trying to meet the needs of the addiction. It could be revenge or just some kind of crazy fetish that they have. But we don't know unless we talk to them. The prisons should be filled with things that are required by law. Proper medical staff, proper staffing, good guards, trained guards. They should have food, proper nutrition, clothing, place to live, and they shouldn't have to pay exorbitant prices to get basic stuff. If they need some aspirin, they shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg to get that. They should be paid well. They should be taught that they are important. The crime they did was wrong, but they're in prison. They're serving their time. Let's make the best of it. Once they walk out, they should feel, I really messed up, and I'm not going to let that happen again. I love to hear people say that. And as I pick them up, I said, you know what? This should be the last time I pick you up. And for some of them, I say, I'm not picking you up again. And I don't. I've only picked people up once. And that's the way I want it to be. But I'm working toward that. I'm taking this responsibility on my own. But I want to share the stuff so that if there's something that you can offer, if you can connect with somebody who's on Securus and just talk, you'd be surprised at the things they say. Uh, read something from Michael Oakes. He said he published some books, but when he used his real name, the publishers were more like, oh, that Michael Oakes, and don't want anything to do with them. It's almost like 200 years ago when a woman wanted to do something, she had to change her identity, change her name, lie to get something done. Uh, Ex-cons should not have to lie. They should take ownership of what they did and say, I'm not that person anymore, and I'll prove it to you. And 99% of them don't mind proving to you. But if you start putting high expectations on them or you start treating them like they're garbage, it's like a child who grows up being called stupid, worthless, and you should never have been born. You're a mistake. What do you think goes through their mind when they go out into the real world? Do they want to pick up a gun and go shoot somebody? Do they want to commit suicide? Do they want to harm their friends and family? And parents should take that responsibility. It shouldn't be on law enforcement, it shouldn't be on teachers, and it shouldn't be on prison officials. But if we work together as a community, we can learn some stuff. We can learn how to deal with people that are committing crimes. I mean, in the Spokane Police Department, they're actually, uh, when they go to arrest somebody, they'll look at the situation. Is this person high? Is this person intoxicated? Is this person acting erratically? And then they try to go from there. If the person is just acting normal, maybe carrying a gun or trying to run away, and speaks just fine, answers questions, they might say, well, this person is just doing something wrong and is not really needs any special attention. But like when my fiance was arrested, she was clearly intoxicated and clearly high on drugs. And she was acting in accordance with the intoxicants that were in her body or the toxins that were in her body. And when she calmed down, she was just different. She looked different. She acted different. Spoke different. And I emphasized, I said, you need to stay away from these drugs. And she knows that too. And so that's something we'll work on. But I don't want her going back to prison when she gets out. And I'll talk to her about that. Are you gonna do this stuff again? No. I'm taking advantage of the resources here. The prison should have educational resources, should have exercise programs, should have a library so that people can look up cases and look up law to help their situation. Give them something to do, something to feel worth. And when I talk to them and they say, well, what can I do for you? I said, tell me your story. Tell me what we can do to help people like you stay out of prison. If you were talking to a child out here, what would you say? Oh my goodness, what I get is just amazing. And not only did I get a really neat thing from Michael Oates that I can share, Robert Yates sent me a paper sculpture of a swan. It's just gorgeous. And he did that to say thank you for the work I was doing to help him. And I like that. I like that he's sharing. I like that he's just sitting back and accepting the fact that he's locked up. But he's offering. And he has some needs as well. There are things that's going on. I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but the movie, the book, Silence of the Lambs, it's based on a real life case involving Ted Bundy and Robert Ridgway. Uh, what happened, or Gary Ridgway, I mean, not Robert, but what had happened was Gary Ridgway was running around out there committing murders, and they went to Ted Bundy for advice. Can you help us out? And he did, and they caught him. There's a lot of people who can help out on that. Those cards that do that, sharing information, talking to people, listening, we can get that information. And I think that would be a bigger, longer effect than banning stuff. So why lock away these people and then hope they'll be better when they get out? We've got people in there that are really being mistreated. I mean, the young lady whose information was shared like that, it's devastating to her. And I don't know if she'll ever really, truly, completely recover. But I'm going to do what I can to help her. And I'm going to show her that that she has great value, and that what she went through is not the norm. We shouldn't treat people in prison like they're less than human. They have rights, although it's limited. They do have rights, and we should respect all of that, especially privacy and the right to life. So let's do what we can to give them worth. You know how it will make a person feel that while they're sitting in a cell, somebody says, the information you gave us saved a life, or we were able to recover a kidnap victim thanks to you. And then when the person gets out, instead of thinking, I should go back to this life of crime, they might think, I can do something. I could use what I've learned. And there's people in prison that talk. You've heard those stories where um, somebody is trying to solve a crime, and the person says, yeah, I was sitting in the cell with this guy, and he was telling me all about the crime, and this is what he said. And then investigators find out that that his cellmate was the person who committed the crime. I like that. I like that we can make use of the people that we already have, the resources that are already within our grasp. We can work together. Yes, the biggest thing they have is their freedom is gone. They're locked up. They suffered. And many of them, large part of them, accept that. So the fact that they're in prison, they're no longer a danger, let's tap into that. Because the people you need to be concerned about are the ones that are working next to you, living next to you, standing behind you in line. Any of these folks could commit a crime that causes great harm to you. But the people that's in prison, they can't. But they can help you. So if somebody said, uh, I don't trust people that hang out in this particular part of town. You know, maybe the law enforcement can beef up security over there, or maybe the word can get out, through YouTube or Facebook or something, and people avoid that area. But there's no limit to the number of lives we can save. 1 to 1,000,000 to 2,000,000 to 1,000,000,000. But we got to make that effort. We got to try. And I'm hoping that you'll go out and you'll talk to your loved ones. You'll hug your family, and you'll let them know that you care. And let people watch these YouTube stuff. Um, Take advantage of the resources that we have. Let folks know. Well, thanks for listening, and go out and have a fabulous day and make stellar memories for tomorrow.